All right, welcome back to the morning show right here on the Rise News channel. And before we take the news this morning, we'll quickly go to Adefemi Akisonya. She's right there on ground, and she'll give us a feel of what is happening today. Adefemi, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. I'm very good. Thank you very much for asking. As you said, we are stood here at the Lekki toll gate. This is, of course, 1 year after the Lekki toll gate incident of October 2020. Now, what we're doing here today, not only are we here to see if there's any type of commemorative effort, we're here to see whether or not the planned car procession will go ahead as planned. What we have been hearing reports of is a peaceful procession of vehicles all in unison, driving from one end of the toll gate to another and going around in a circle and doing that over again. If you're familiar with the Lagos area, you'll know that the toll gate links Victoria Island to Lekki and then gives you the opportunity to turn back around. So the idea behind that procession is to peacefully have cars pass lawfully through this toll gate. Now, that was not the original plan. We did hear reports and see flyers about an organized commemorative protest, or gathering at least, happening at Landmark. Now, what we did hear is that that event had to be cancelled after Lagos State government reportedly put pressure on the owners of Landmark not to hold that event. It was then reported that the owners of Landmark returned the deposit, returned the monies paid by the organizers of that protest because of that pressure. As a result, it is believed that the car procession happened as a sort of plan B type of protest that would still allow people to commemorate what happened here a year ago, but still do so lawfully, passing by within vehicles in a procession of vehicles in unison. Now, that was supposed to happen at 8 a.m. GMT +1 West Africa time, which is of course about now, and we have not, as it stands, seen any type of identifying feature to any of the vehicles standing here. But it hasn't all been dry on the streets. Just a few moments ago, we did see a first protester approach security guards. They were by themselves. It was a man dressed in white cloth holding his own poster, and he did in fact go across to the street to where you can see and hold his poster in front of what we're seeing there, the security presence. Now, at first, he was largely left unattended to, but then armed security officials ran towards him and took him forcibly into a vehicle behind us. Now, we followed him into that vehicle where he told us that he had been beaten. He said that he'd been punched from within that vehicle. And not only that, there was a second person also in that car with him who identified himself as a journalist and said that though he didn't have his press credentials, he was here in a professional capacity to cover the would-be protest, and he was rushed into the vehicle, and he too said he was beaten and punched in the mouth and said his lip had been bloodied. We were able to speak to him and get his account. Now, what's interesting is that they were in a vehicle just like the one you're seeing over my shoulder there, that Lagos task force, with those bars in the window which allowed us to put our microphones up, see their faces, see their alleged injuries, and speak to them and have answers. But a few moments ago, that vehicle left with those two people in there and was returned with an empty one. So if you weren't here on the ground, you wouldn't have known that that has happened. So it is quite interesting as it stands now. Not anything too remarkable other than those two stories, but again, the irony is stark. If people are here commemorating what they believe to be police brutality in its worst form, the use of deadly force right here a year ago, it is sad, to say the least, to see that not only is a protester but a journalist being put into a vehicle and allegedly beaten by security forces there.
Well, Adefemi Akisonya, I mean, great report there. You know, you are right there at ground zero, if we may call it that. But the state government had said that people have the right to protest, and that what the police should do in Lagos is to provide protection for the protesters. But what you are saying, you know, in terms of police presence in that arena, would seem to contradict the official position of the Lagos state government. And if you are saying also that journalists have been harassed, then that's really something that we need to worry about, because this is a story that needs to be reported. Are you aware also that the protesters have planned another program for 4 p.m. rather than 8 a.m.? And do you sense that, you know, the squad that has been sent there by the Commissioner of Police in Nigeria, in Lagos State, is behaving as if they are prepared to shoot and kill and maim and carry out whatever is impossible or that is possible within the range of their own understanding.
Dr. Rubin, as it stands now, anything is possible. If there's one lesson we learned from October 2020, is that truly anything is possible when it comes to protesting here in Lagos, right here at the toll gate. If we let history tell it, yes, the use of deadly force is a real possibility. And we don't want to take any chances. Both of our journalists on the ground here have been given bulletproof vests in case of any type of lethal discharge of a weapon. That has not been the case, though. We have not seen or heard any type of lethal force being deployed. However, within my own ears, and speaking to two people face to face, one of them being a journalist, they did say that they had been beaten by police, punches to the face, and one of them, the journalist among the two men, said his lip was bloodied. So if at this point we are seeing something that is starkly in contradiction with the official position of Lagos State government, it is worrying, to say the least. It is unsettling. As it stands now, there is a huge security presence, most of them heavily armed, most of them with firearms in their hands. And again, if we were to learn any lessons from October 2020, is that truly anything is possible, for better or for worse. Indeed, we have been hearing that there have been more than one plan for protesters to gather in commemoration of October 20. As it stands now, the car procession, which was supposed to happen between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. West African time, whether or not that's happened or not, we definitely haven't seen. We've been on the ground since before 8 a.m. waiting to see any signs of cars moving in unison. As it stands, we have not seen that yet, but the day is still young, and we do know that more than anything there is a huge desire to commemorate what happened on October 20, to commemorate the EndSARS protest, which, for better or worse, will continue to be part and parcel of Nigerian modern history.
Okay, thank you, Adefemi. I mean, I was wondering what happened to your ship, so I understand now you have a bulletproof vest there, but it's okay. Better to be safe. Better to be safe.
Right. I actually have a question, Adefemi. I'm really quite appalled by this report. Excellent report as always. But I'm horrified, Adefemi. A lone protester was assaulted and carted away somewhere. And a member of the press, although he didn't have his credentials on him, had the same fate. Do we know where they've been taken to? So really, are they under arrest at this point? It's not like they were assaulted and then released. They've actually been taken away. I just want to confirm that.
Absolutely, they're no longer on the ground here. They were in a vehicle just like that black Lagos State Task Force, and we approached them. I tiptoed on my very tippy toes, put the microphone to his mouth, and they both said that they had been beaten by the police. Both of them said that they had received blows from within the vehicle, concealed blows and violence against them. That was their report to me. Approach them, you'll see these gentlemen dressed in black with their helmets. It was among that group of people who did chase after that protester and take him into the vehicle. From what we saw, him walking to the vehicle was largely unforced. There was no level of resistance. He did go into the vehicle, and by the time we reached the vehicle, he said that he had been beaten by members of the security forces, members of the Lagos State Police, and that is unsettling. Dr. Rubin said, you're all aware that the official position of the Lagos State government is that you have the right to protest peacefully, and the security forces on the ground are there to make sure you can do so peacefully for your own protection. But what we're seeing is in direct contrast of that. Okay, and we'll be giving you updates as and when they come throughout the day.
So, okay, Adefemi, some more information about the journalist. Actually, that journalist was doing a live stream for a reputable online media. And the live stream video was on when the arrest was effected. In fact, he had to interrupt the video. We're watching the live stream video. It was right on there. And it was being streamed from the social media handle of that media house. So that's just to confirm that he was a legitimate journalist, and that company, has some presence as regards, online media in this country. Just to put that out there. But thank you so much for your feed, Adefemi. And probably, maybe at some point soon, we'll get to talk to maybe some of the police officers themselves, if they care to talk to us, and we'll ask them some questions. Thank you so much, Adefemi. We'll come back to you. It's a developing story. We'll go for a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk some more.
Thank you.
1 year after thousands of youths came out to demand an end to police brutality, reform of the Nigeria police force, and justice for the victims of police brutality at the October 2020 EndSARS protest, a cross-section of Nigerians are reviewing the gains and losses of the protest.
The EndSARS is a centralized social movement accompanied by a series of mass protests against police brutality in Nigeria. The protest, which took its name from a Twitter campaign using the hashtag EndSARS, demanded the disbanding of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, a notorious unit of the Nigeria police with a long record of abuses. After experiencing a revitalization in October 2020, following more revelations of the abuses of the unit, mass demonstrations occurred in major cities of Nigeria, accompanied by vociferous outrage on social media platforms. The protest was notable for its patronage by a demography of predominantly young Nigerians. Some of them recount their experience.
I participated because I believed that it was a right course. It was something that we all were concerned about. We knew that our lives were not safe. We entrusted our lives to the people that we pay from the collective taxes that we all pay to government, and they were not literally doing what we had asked them to do. So participating was important to me, because participating was not because I wanted a regime change or I wanted to just paint the Nigerian police as a bad institution, but we wanted to send a message to the police and to the government that when an institution fails to live out its core meaning and its mandate, the people can come together and protest and reform it.
While the hashtag EndSARS protest was hugely peaceful and organized, it suddenly turned violent following allegations that security officials aided the attack on protesters. As the protest was hijacked, there were attacks on protesters by rival groups, attacks on security personnel and installations, burning of government and private properties, large-scale looting, and even interethnic violence. This is the popular Apo Mechanic Village. It became the epicenter of violence in the FCT. We speak to some of the victims.
Honestly, we were here opening up our business. All of a sudden, we saw people rushing down. The next thing we see is butchers of cars and putting petrol and burning the cars. So we have to escape to run for our life first. So at the end of the day, we now come out from bush, we find out that all the whole car here has turned to ashes. That is exactly what happened.
Like how many cars, looking back right now?
Obviously, looking back, the car that burned here is more than exactly 20-something cars that burned here.
Maybe a week after or 2 weeks after, when the thing happened, the minister himself came. So he came to condole with us and give us the assurance that at least whatever may be government, we try to intervene to make sure that there are losses doesn't go like that. It just to make sure that it's put something in our table, which we all excited that very day for hearing such statement from the minister. And we are so excited. We welcome the idea. Then maybe after all, he told us that very day that he was going to set up the committee. The committee had to give him the feedback what is exactly happened that very day. And thank God the committee came, headed by the NEMA DJ, something like that. He came with his entourage, the check, everything. Even that very day, I was even telling them, let them go around to see the level of the devastation. But they say it is obvious to them that they have seen something by themselves. Up to now, the only thing we are hearing that is some process. Up to this moment, I'm even speaking to you. Up to this moment, we have not got anything. And it's most pathetic story of it that one of our members, I lost him April 12th. Or just like, because the debts are so overwhelming. Even me, as I'm standing, I'm just trying to summon courage. Because when the debtor started calling every day, he cannot bear it. He was just sleep and couldn't wake up.
We approached the Nigeria police for comments on the protest and aftermath, the promised reforms, and what the force is doing to compensate some of the officers who suffered losses. However, our request for an interview was turned down. The violence led to interventions by civil society groups, international community, and well-meaning Nigerians. Lawrence Alubi is a retired commissioner of police and member of the FCT Eminent Persons Forum on Peace and Security. The group was part of the conflict resolution process.
The EndSARS it has its advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of the police, and interestingly, the EndSARS protests were concerned about the police reform. And police reform also improving the welfare of the police. So it was good for the police. But you see, the police is there like it is the orientation is a police regime protection. And Mr. President has promised some of this, of course, what he promised he did enforce. He said the police that they are going to see about police reform, and they're going to see about also ensuring that all that the issue of SARS is banded and other things. Another thing Mr. President promised. But again, police reform, how realistic? They'll be having various sorts of committees that with reforms. Mandami, MD Yusuf, Parende, and others who have recommended a lot of recommendations. They're already shelved. I took part in a committee that addressed the issue of policing and security in 2030. We did with in fact, it was anchored on that by the Minister of Defense. I was one of those. But all these recommendations are normally end up in the shelf. The point is not just when we talk about police reform, not just it to be real reform, not cosmetic. Real reform in the sense that what does the police need? Reform is based on need. Police need to be well funded. Police need to be well equipped. Police need to be well motivated. Police need to be well trained. They need to reorientate their perception and attitude of policing. Right now, that mentality of brutality, you're using force, is unnecessary. Policing is people's needs driven, and you endear yourself to the people by your effort and your action. So why today? That's why we don't have things have actually not moved better. Though now, the point is that the police leadership too has a role to play. Because leadership determines followership. So the issue of brutality and police hard-headedness issue, I'm sure the President IG, I'm told, is handling it. And I wish he should actually pursue it seriously.
While the federal and state governments have set up commissions to review complaints of police brutality, far-reaching reforms is being advocated to prevent similar crises from reoccurring. Ferdinand Duroha, Arise News.
Right. We're going to go over to Abuja, where we have Amaka Ude and Lekki Agbelese on ground. Good morning, guys.
Well, good morning to you, Tundu, and the rest of the team here. We're actually live at the Unity Fountain right here in the nation's capital, Abuja, where it was expected that the protesters would actually gather to actually, air their grievances or even just mark that anniversary 1 year after, that all-important EndSARS protest that happened here in the nation's capital, which unfortunately we saw a destruction of properties and even a few loss of lives here. But as you can see here at the Unity Fountain, there's not a lot of activities going on here, Lekki?
Yeah. We still have protesters gathering, and they're still the protest is about to take shape. But what is significant about the EndSARS protest is that we got to see Nigerians, young Nigerians, even if for a moment Nigerians came together to fight a cause, and it grew from asking for police reforms to asking for good governance. So and then we have protesters marking the memorial of the Lekki shooting incident. Well, we have people coming in one after the other, and we hope to get a lot of things. And as from what we can see, we think there will be much activities going on.
Well, we have to wait and see those activities because the set time for this event was between 7:30 and 8 a.m. But here we are, a few minutes past 8 a.m. and there's not a lot of activities. We tried to have a conversation earlier on with the police officers who are actually stationed here, and they refused to talk to us on camera. But one thing that they are saying is that they are here to ensure that, there's a lot of, unity in everything that happens here, that there's not a lot of, distractions from the main aim of the protest. And I do know that besides the one here at the Unity Fountain that was planned, we do have other protests, maybe at the City Gate and even at the Beggar Roundabout. Arise News, definitely, we have crews stations all across the city capital to ensure that we have full coverage of all that is going on. But what we can tell you here from the Unity Fountain, which is the main place where we actually planned, they planned the memorial. We're not seeing a lot of the protesters just yet. Maybe things will pick up eventually, but for now we are here. And as the camera crew would actually pan around to show you, there's more of journalists and media houses around to just, get the stories in. But the protesters themselves, they are yet to arrive. But here in the nation's capital, Abuja, Arise News is on ground to ensure that we have full coverage of the anniversary of the EndSARS protest right here in the nation's capital.
Well, have there been any reports in Abuja, like we've seen in Lagos, or we've heard in Lagos, that there were attempts to quell the activities of protesters? Has that been the case in Abuja? What has been the level of cooperation that they've been receiving from the Commissioner of Police over there? I mean, you did say that the police are there to protect people, but has there been any kind of resistance that has been reported in Lagos?
Well, so far so good. We haven't seen any resistance from the Nigerian police, but one thing I do know for a fact is the Unity Fountain is a designated area for protest in Abuja. So it doesn't matter who you are or what you're planning to protest against or for. This is the place where you should actually come gather first of all before you go in for the protest. And I do know that the Commissioner of Police and even the IGP of Police had actually banned street protests. So one would expect that the first place where the protesters should gather should be here at the Unity Fountain before any other movement happens, if it will happen really at the end of the day. But we are finally seeing like some buses arrive, some vehicles arrive, but we'll keep you updated as to what is going on here at the Unity Fountain. But for now, there's not a lot of protests going on here, but it's more of journalists trying to figure out what is going on in terms of marking the 1-year anniversary of the, alleged killing of protesters on the 20th of October 2020.
Well, what do you suspect?
Yes.
What do you suspect is going on? Because some people are theorizing that the Nigerian police, because they also suffered many losses, barracks were burned down, they lost many of their officers, their vehicles were destroyed. Do you get the impression that, look, if we're not careful, what we're likely to have today is some kind of revenge mission on the part of the police? From your conversation with those policemen, even if they do not want to come on camera to make that point, or do you suspect a change of strategy on the part of the protesters? Because in Lagos, we have a similar situation. And in Lagos, we have not seen the protesters. And I was making the point that perhaps they will come out later in the day. Yes, Amaka and Lekki.
Ruben, for your question that you've asked, the truth is, from what we suspect, the truth is, remember that the protest actually grew from ending police brutality to asking for good governance. And we didn't even see the protesters ask for even good remuneration for the police officers themselves. So if there's actually a change of strategy, it's not something that they've actually led the media in. But I do know that we're actually on ground to ensure that we're covering every aspect of the protest, to ensure that it doesn't matter where it's happening, we will be here to ensure that it happens.
Well, thank you very much, Amaka and Lekki. Thank you very much. We'll keep in touch with you.